They did give me, I did ask for it right after that when they said, you will need stitches. Okay, I'll take painkillers, please.
Get that needle out and start. All right, let's stitch you up here. No. I'll take those painkillers, please. I'll pay the $12. I don't care.
To me, it wasn't a money thing. I was like, oh,
it's not really that bad.
If they're giving me the option,
it's probably not that bad, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're amputating your leg as you say that. Hey, welcome to Fellowship Friday. Today we have a very special guest with us, our very own Eli Nelson. Eli, welcome into the studio.
Well, thank you.
The new studio. I'm glad you could join us.
Well, thank you.
So kind of want to get into different aspects, obviously missions, and then some stuff about you being outside, a squirrel or something outdoors, basically live outside. No. We'll get into some of that, but yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So to start off, I guess, let's give kind of a backstory of how you, I guess, kind of got into missions. And I guess with that too, you kind of met your wife, Martha, as well, sort of in that story. So
I'll jump back a little bit because my mom played a big part in just the whole process of being interested in missions and such. So my mom, she skied competitively in Colorado, and when she was in her teenage years and such. And with that, had always the desire to go to other countries, visit. She did try to go to Israel in 91, but Persian Gulf War stopped that. For their 10th anniversary, 10th anniversary was September 23rd, 2001. So that trip got canceled because of 9/11. And so pretty much any of her opportunities to go across the border, other than Canada, were thwarted. So she got her degree in international affairs, and just hoping to go or be a part of the Olympic Committee or along those lines. She just really enjoyed her time for skiing and all that came with that. So with that, desire of going overseas, we always had friends that were from all sorts of countries. She had a really close friend, roommate in college that was from South Korea. We've met friends from Japan and just everything. So always having a mindset of wanting to go abroad. And so for me, that was kind of the foot in the door, interested in traveling. And then on top of that, we had missionaries that came to visit our church. This was a church that we went to while we were in New Hampshire, not our sending church. Currently, it was a church plant from that church. But they came and visited our church, shared about their ministry and a little bit of their kids. And for me, as a 8-year-old or so, I'm trying to remember exactly how old, to me, I thought that was just a cool adventure. Being able to live out in the jungle and, just if I remember correctly, he had a slingshot. He was doing, shooting all kinds of stuff.
That sounds awesome. That's like every kid's dream.
Yeah. So
to be Tarzan. It's like living out, roughing it almost.
Oh yeah. And so, just for me, I was like, oh, I want to be a missionary because it's a big adventure. Not necessarily, that of course grew as time went on. But with that, as I grew up, I also got to see the missionaries, Bruce's, when they come back from furlough, they brought their kids. We were part of our homeschool group and got to hang out with them and got to follow their ministry. They've been there for a little over 25 years, if I remember correctly now. And so they've been there a long time, and through that, it just continued that desire of traveling and so on. And to me, I just thought if I'm going to do that, it's got to be in missions. But then that, as I understood more of God's word and gospel and such, that desire turned into not just an adventure, but also seeing the need out there. And our church, we ended up, that church that initially were a part of dissolved, and then we started going to the church that is our studying church now, the one that my folks still go to, Grace Evangelical Free Church. Every church we've been a part of has grace in it, so that's something for
That's
us. But
a good theme, I guess.
yes, so it's they had a huge emphasis on their ministry to Haiti, and so I was able to go to Haiti twice when I was in high school. You had to be 14 years old to go, and I was going to be turning 14 on the trip, so I had to ask permission. Is that an option? And yeah, they were perfectly fine with that. So that was a cool opportunity, being there actually both times on Easter. But with that, we also just Haiti is very poor, so you see the poverty. Um, Sorry, my phone. At least I think it was.
Come on, Siri.
So they,
You called?
but they ended up having not only just the poverty, but you could see or feel the darkness of the country. It is a very dark country. When they created the country, they dedicated it to the devil. It's a dark country. Voodoo is prevalent. And we learned some things that, like, don't bring a starfish that you find on the beach home, because that they use that for worshiping ... So that there are certain things about that, but for me, that was eye-opening. Not only the poverty need, but the spiritual need, that they don't really have a whole lot of light in that country. And so those two mission trips were helping an orphanage out there. Their orphanage was destroyed in the earthquake. They needed to build a new one. There's a lot of different aspects of that trip, but that helped get a better understanding of, okay, I now actually overseas get to see a little bit of how it's like. And then after that, I took a class. It's called Perspectives. So it's if I remember correctly, 16-week class. You can take it either, and I took it as a high school credit. You can do just audit it, high school credit or college credit, and high school at the time. And it was just an overview of what is missions, biblical basis of missions, history of it, and then different areas to keep in mind or even just as we go about our day-to-day lives. It's a lot more than just going and sharing God's word, that in terms of aspect of missions. There's the people that send missionaries, to the people that support them on the ground, to even we see a lot of international students come in here, let alone people immigrating here. And so you have those opportunities to reach into other cultures that you would normally not be a part of.
Cool.
We got a good overview in that class. And then afterwards, I went and visited Ecuador for the first time with the same missionaries that got me in the first place, are interested in missions. And so they had a church that was meeting in their porch, and they would like to have a larger building.
Just on a porch, like a front house porch?
It was definitely a little bigger and a little different than how we have it. So they actually had two houses and a porch in between. Missionaries, their previous missionaries that helped them, that ended up going back to the States, retiring, they ended up having one house and then their house and then a porch, a decently large porch in between. And so
It's like a boardwalk.
Yeah.
Between the house.
Yeah. But they had a large kids Sunday school. And so it's always harder if you had the church and you wanted to dismiss the kids so you can actually get into more of the study and such without all the from distractions. Plus, it was just a great opportunity. I was able to help that when I help with the children's ministry when I was there, but they I went down there and with a group of people from my church, and we built their church building / carport. So it was a cool opportunity, but also not only was it just let's build this, it was a time encourage the Bruces and the Schaubs, their coworkers, the Schaubs. It's actually Kathy Bruce's sister's family, so it was fun to get to know the Schaubs, and their son Lee was, I'm trying to remember at the time, I think he was like just started high school or such. So I hung out with him a little bit, and we were able to, if that's going around the jungle, we needed to get some food, so dug up some yucca and other things like that. So
Wow, that's cool.
it was a really cool opportunity to see what it's like, and it was, if I remember correctly, it was junior or beginning of senior. I think it was junior year of high school. So I was like trying to figure out what's my plan after. With that, I did hear from the Bruces that there was a program that their mission organization had. They were a part of Liebenzell mission. It's based out of Germany, and so, but not solely German mission. And so they had a program where for college or people just graduating high school or such, be able to jump into their Impactos group, where they go and they learn Spanish. They help all the different missionaries that are in country in different ways, and then they also do a Spanish youth camp and help with that. There's multiple things, and so to me, I was like, that would be a really cool gap year, like to get a better. There was always the like, what should I do? I should wait a little bit or so on. And just it was be a really cool opportunity. The issue is I would be the first American ever to be on that trip. And so all their material was in German. I don't speak German. And so
yet.
Yeah. I'll definitely, there's a decent chance I'll learn some German when I'm in Papua New Guinea. But with our, so I was not, it was not going to work well with all their stuff in German. So the mission organization asked the Russes, hey, would you take them on for a year? Do similar thing, but mainly just with the Bruces and the Schaubs. And so they were in a furlough, gap year in the States. And during my senior year. And so I was able to, we ended up, they took me on for the year. They just went through a really hard time right before they left to go back. So their church started to fall apart with one of the elders falling away, and it went downhill pretty fast. And so they were trying to figure out how are we going to do this? What's the plan? So on and so forth. And so it ended up being a cool opportunity that, here I was able to help them with, if that's grunt work, tutoring Lee in a couple different subjects in school to just anything they needed. So, and then for me, that was a good opportunity to see what it is like to be a tribal church planter in a least reached people group. Yes, they had already been there for 20 years by the time I got there. So actually, they've probably been there for 27, 28 years.
Wow.
And so they ended up, my thoughts. So in that year, it was just trying to pull this church back together, get things going. And so
that's hard too.
It was hard. Of course, for me as an 18-year-old, I didn't. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I feel like didn't, went over my head, or I wasn't paying attention, or so on and so forth. But just their dedication to we're here to see a mature church planted. They had believers. It's not just um, they were not content with just, oh, we have believers, we can go back to the States. They wanted to have a thriving church that would continue after they left.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the case before.
That's kind of the goal anyways, is to not only believers, but mature believers who can then have other mature believers to keep it going. Not just, okay, we got believers, we're gone. See ya. You want them to grow and to thrive. That way, what you had, I was actually impactful, right? So.
Yes. So with that opportunity, I also got to see how God was at work through it all. There was multiple different things. Like one of the believers, Gloria, she ended up, she's one of the ones that always sang loudly and such in worship, which is not normal with Awa. They only sing and dance and such when they're drunk. So for them doing that, singing wasn't large, or isn't didn't always happen for the church. I mean, the Roosters and Chops, we had our songs in Awa, we had our songs in Spanish and such, but you could definitely tell that not everyone was all comfortable of singing. But she was it was cool to see her there. But her husband was not a believer, and so while we were there, he ended up coming to know the Lord, and that was just a really cool opportunity. Here, I was with some of their kids getting ready lunch and such, while the parents were talking to them, and we had no clue what was going on. And it was really cool to see later, oh, he came to know the Lord. And after accepting the Lord, he was talking to his kids right there, like, this is what I believe. You should believe it too. And it was cool. So all that to say, there's actually one area back to Ecuador before I move on from there. So Kevin Bruce, he was the missionary there. He definitely enjoyed technology, as in computers and so on. Played around with Raspberry Pis, making. It was really cool to see the different projects. It was a hobby, but also a very useful hobby, as internet to the area was not the best. So 10 kilobytes a second is around what we were getting.
Wow.
Which is really slow.
Yeah.
People would if you want to watch a movie overnight, you have to download it, and hopefully it will download through overnight. And yeah, it can't be high res. But we ended up having, so he was able to do all kinds of different things. Like, he had better internet in a surrounding town, but it's not site to site area. It's hour drive, but that's also because you can't go that fast because it's, bad roads. So he ended up getting the tower up, and then beaming the internet from the Lita onto the mountain in between, and then back to his place. And so seeing that, and that helped them, a ton. And then they can connect well back at home. They can, and such. And so got to see. IT's always been something I've been into, and got to see how that's been, used well in the field. So fast forward to the end, my time there, trying to figure out what plans are, and they recommended going through the training center that they went through, and that's with the mission organization that Martha and I are part of, with Ethnos 360, formerly known as New Tribes, and that's I started going there when it was called New Tribes Bible Institute, or New Tribes Bridal Institute, as a lot of people call it. So, but that's
Bridal Institute.
yeah,
That's
we
got a whole new meaning to it after you put that on there.
yeah, there was a joke within the school on that. So yeah, but we um, so after doing a gap year in Ecuador, I took it was a 2-year Bible school, and my plan was to finish that Bible school and then go through the further training that they have. And so that was the Bruce's and Schaub's recommendation, and my goal was still, this is what I'm here to do. Is I would like to be a tribal church planter overseas, middle of nowhere and such. As
It's that adventure inside of you. You
yes,
still wanted to kind of do that.
so that was our plan. That was my plan, and so went to Bible school, and that is where I met Martha. So now there's a lot of different things. We were in so many of the same circles. Um, so get at least some background. I was born in Colorado, but then I grew up in New Hampshire. And for me, Colorado's, even though I haven't lived in Colorado very long, not in super long stints, but it's still saw a family here. I still claim it. Way more, especially now with Martha. But
Yeah.
I was wearing a Broncos sweatshirt at the time, and Martha's like, "Wait, Broncos, Colorado!" Like, so that's how that started.
Oh, that's cool. It was all from a sweater, huh?
That was one of the things. But then on top of that, the missionaries, the Schaubs, their second daughter, Elena, was roommates with Martha the previous semester. And then they always put together a guy's dorm and a girl's dorm, as in like sister dorm, that type of deal. And then they pair them also with staff couple and often an intern. And they try to create other opportunities of community in the school. And so Martha wasn't in the sister dorm of ours, but her best friend was the RA of our sister dorm. So she was brought to our um, times that we got together. So with all that, another aspect that was kind of interesting is we had two teachers that were on sabbatical. And so two main teachers. So they ended up combining a lot of the classes that Martha was in. It was a semester ahead of mine and then my class. And so we were in the same classes, a lot of the same circles, end up having the same job, going to the same church. So we saw each other all the time.
Well, that worked out, huh?
Yeah. So became friends, and we had different moments together, just like harder times with like she had a couple friends that passed away, and those hard times, but it was also the same anniversary of when my grandfather passed away, and my grandfather and I were really, really close, and he's also one of the reasons just of growing in my faith and such. Of he was a huge in my life in that. So going
Big
through
influence
hardships
for you.
Yes. And so, going through hardships together to and such, just brought us even closer. Now, fast forward, then it comes to just, you could say, the funny part of our relationship. Miscommunication has been a key to our relationship. Now, Martha, I let Martha borrow my car. She didn't have a car at the time, and she needed to run an errand or whatever. And then after that, she had a friend that come up to her, and she's like, "I think that Eli's interested in you." And so Martha wanted to squash that, and so we talked later, and she's like, "I want to talk to you." And what she communicated to what came across were not the same thing. And what I gathered,
What you took from it?
yeah, you'll have to ask Martha too, because what I gathered was that she was planning on being single, but at the end of the year, she was going to make that like, I'm never getting married ever. And so to me, what she was trying to say is, please, especially not until the end of the year. But what I got across was I need to ask her out this year or else.
Before she just cuts everything off. I'm the one last hope that you got.
So all that to say, I think it was a week later, asked her out, and she said, give me 3 days to pray about it. So those were 3 nerve-wracking days.
I bet, yeah. Especially after what you thought 3 days ago. Like, oh man, that means that's a no. That's a no for sure.
No, the other thing too is I've never dated before, so this is the first time.
Oh yeah,
so
no, for sure that would be nerve wracking.
Oh yeah, but yeah, so I ended up 2 days later. She ended up. Well, actually, get some background. Our bus routes were one of the last ones in the day, and so typically had a shuttle bus to bring us back to school because a large chunk of our school were school bus drivers. And so actually, I think we made up like 30% of all the school bus drivers in that first student in that area. So huge area, huge opportunity for jobs and such for our school. So we ended up going back together at the same time, and she's like, "Hey, can we talk?" And so she's like,
"This is at the end of day 2."
Day 2, yeah, end of day 2, and so fortunately not day 3, but
early.
So she said, "No, but if it be anyone, it would be someone like you." She's like, "I still want to be friends and so on. Didn't want to, she's like, enjoy hanging out. I just for marriage or such, that's not was not in their game plan." And so yeah, there was the other on top of that, we had planned the group of us were going out. This is a week before. We're all planning to go to Thanksgiving with it would be the Schaub's oldest daughter's family. And so there was Kimberly, Elena, Martha, and I. And there was supposed to be another girl that also had a vehicle, but she dropped out, and therefore I'm the only one with the vehicle. So there's no way I can pull out. Which I don't know if I would either way, but it's just in that awkward. I asked this girl out, and she told me no, and now I'm gonna do a road trip with her and some of her friends, and I would say her friends too. But I'm the only guy, which is a little weird. But also some background. Like here, I grew up, or I stayed for a year with their family and such, so they were kind of family to me too. I didn't meet Laura before, and her and her husband and her oldest, and so went through it. Martha and I is like, I'm not going to make this awkward. We talked the whole time and so on. So it worked out really well, and we just continued to hang out a lot. We had different things, like lunch was going to be early or whatever, and so it was just going to be a crazy mess at the cafeteria. So we went out for lunch together. Other things like that are like, oh, that's kind of like a date. Yeah, it was. But
insight that kind of sounds like a date.
But we weren't dating, and I had multiple people are like, "Are you guys dating?" I'm like, "No." But yeah, it's like interesting.
Who told you that? Who told you that? Better not let Martha hear about this.
So finally, my first semester finished. Now we're bus drivers, so bus drivers typically have to stay a little longer, come back a little earlier, just because regular school comes. At different timing. So we ended up, or all the bus drivers, hung out typically together and such. And so I ended up getting a gift card from one of the students that rode my bus. So he ended up giving it up for a coffee shop. So we didn't have breakfast. Earth and I didn't have breakfast at the time, and so we're like, why don't we go get breakfast? And so on the way back, I broached the subject of like, we are hanging out. I mean, to that point of like, for a guy girl relationship, we need to kind of like either um, limit our interactions or just go for it and start dating. And Martha's response was, I still want to hang out. And so, that's how that
Wow.
worked out. So, that's how we got to know each other. Fast forward, she graduates a semester early because she started a semester earlier than I, and then goes back to Colorado. So this is what, year and a half later, or yeah, it'd be a year later. We get engaged actually in her uh, last semester, my second last. All that to say, get married after I graduate, move back to New Hampshire, and our plan was we were recommended to get married, have a gap year before going through the rest of the training. Just like get used to being married, just like um, just settle down just a little bit before coming. Now it's not how it worked out. We ended up after the first year, we had Elisha. So we're like, okay, our oldest. And so we were like, okay, how are we, like also like financial wise, would it be wise to wait another year or so on? So we ended up waiting another year. And through all those times, we got to plug into our church and help with the youth group and other things. And then in our second year, they needed some help with the church plant. With Martha helped in it as a secretary, and then so different opportunities there. It was just for a short little bit, and then Neva was born, so that kind of put a stop to that of in terms of time. But
And
I was
another one.
yes, but then I ended up helping out in other ways. So they had someone that stepped down from helping in AV, and AV is an area that I've done a lot of. It's one of the first areas that I started serving in church, helping with the slides. First day ever doing that by myself. The computer had a virus. I didn't put it in, but it was
It's a little suspicious. Hey, new guy, you want to help us out here? Yeah, sure. Oh, I ruined everything.
It was been slow for the last few months, and that was the last day that computer was used. We had lyrics for the last song after the sermon, but it was that was my first day on the job there. But all I'd say is I've done a lot of AV, did a bunch of AV in Bible school. Any church that I've been a part of, I've typically helped out in AV, and so they ended up having a need with AV. So I started helping in AV, and they're like, "Oh, why don't you like intern on the leadership committee? Just like be a fly on the wall, help with a few things if need be." And then COVID hit, and actually right before we applied to see about going to it again because of the 2 year mark, it was miscommunication and such, and we ended up staying another year, so it's the third year. Which honestly, it was hard being told no, but then there's a lot of miscommunication that got cleared up. But with that said, we ended up having another gap year that we actually wouldn't have any other way. For areas that we grew ourselves, but also everyone in our training team. I'll get to that a little bit. For our class, they break us up into small groups. And everyone in that small group, and I say small group as in 5 couples, 3 singles, and 7 kids. So not exactly small, but
Yeah.
everyone there had all planned on coming the year before as well, and we're all delayed for different reasons.
Hmm.
And it's just one of those things of seeing God's hand in not what we would have liked, but that's still something that we would have no other way after, hindsight 2020. But yeah, we being told no or, stuff like that was hard. So going back into serving, COVID hit. And so that was just a whole interesting time, as it was for everyone. But for me, I interned on the leadership committee. So that meant that, we're going to do all, some different things. We're going to have you host one of the Bible studies that we're having. And someone else, one of the other people in the leadership committee will lead it, but you can host it. And that person comes down with COVID like week 2. So I had to lead it
Nice.
teaching our pastor how to edit or shoot and edit sermons from his computer. This is, very, very beginning of COVID when people didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. Still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. But that was just that first little bit. And here we're in New Hampshire, and that's a live for your die state. So that was fun. And I definitely get some of that. But they ended up, so it was a really cool opportunity. And then we continue with our training. This is kind of where things pivot a little bit in trajectory of what we're planning on doing. Here, Martha and I, our goal was, you'll have to talk to Martha about her story if you don't know, but about being a part of missions. But our goal was to be tribal church planters. As they say in our organization, tribe or die kind of a deal. And that's just, but here I've always been into computers. From video, from a young age, I was doing video editing. I've done fixing computers. Typically, it's because I broke something on the computer and I needed to fix my family's computer. And you learn different things from a young age.
It's almost self-taught. You just learn how things work and fix them yourself.
Yes, but also knowing who to call. As in, the doc is no longer on the computer. Whatever I did made it minimize or whatever, and things like basic stuff that I didn't know at the time, and my family didn't know. So they were like, "You broke the computer. Like, what you call computer shop?"
What did you do?
But it ended up being
It's got another virus. I don't know what to tell you.
So I've always been into computers, and so when I was over there, they threw me on. You have different work details in the training center. And so you serve in different areas, if that's custodial to grounds to if people have different skills, they try to throw them in those areas. My thing was computers, so they ended up throwing me in the IT area. And so, and I've also worked at a computer store for, at that time, 3 years. That's when I was in New Hampshire, first married. That's where I worked pretty much the whole time.
You used to get like crazy good deals there too, didn't you?
I was able to get things at cost, which is such a blessing. My boss was great. He definitely cared for his employees. I was really, the biggest thing is, as we were like from Elisha being born, Neva being born, taking care of us through that to, he was a great boss.
That's good.
And so, we're at cost now. I will say we didn't make a whole lot on, it was an Apple store. We don't make a whole lot on Apple branded stuff. So I didn't get a huge deal, but it was still a good deal because you typically don't get a whole lot of deals on those. So ended up being a cool opportunity of growing in IT, making Frankenstein computers, as in broken computers that are recycled, that most of them are all liquid damage, and then finding the one component that worked from each computer and making stuff. So
building it brand new.
So, and often like old computers too. So it was fun. It was a really good job. I really enjoyed it. And so with that, when I was at training, any Mac computer people had issues with, got brought to me.
You're
Actually,
the guy. You're the Mac daddy.
and then the other thing too is the first 2 weeks. So I showed up there before things started. I ended up the people in IT like, hey, show you the ropes and such. And by the way, you're on your own because we're all leaving for a week, and so any issues, good luck. And here are a couple
Thanks for
people to
that.
reach out to. They're great. But so like I had a classmate that bought a computer that already had a virus on it, that kind of thing. It was Windows.
Just throw that little jab in there.
But
It was Windows, that's how it goes.
I will say I work on both. I have a PC, I have a Mac.
Yeah.
They-
You prefer Mac though, right? Would you say? I mean, so for me, Mac is definitely production quality. I love it for editing, any sort of production thing I'm doing. Games, I go straight PC. Anything gaming, anything like that. I do have a PC just because, different stuff. But I do love Mac for the production side of things. Everything just seems so seamless
and that's what I grew up in. Now I did play Age of Empires on a Windows gateway running.
nice.
Yeah, so I've done Windows even from when I was like 5 years old. But then we started with a 2004 iMac. So I'm trying to remember if I was like 7 or 8 at the time. I can't remember if it was brand new or whatever.
Yeah.
And so from that age, I was doing Mac. And so that's why I would say I feel a little more comfortable with Mac, though I've had to learn Windows.
Being in just technology, you kind of have to widen your gaze a little bit.
Yes, and typically a lot of people focus on one platform or the other. And I was with the Apple store that I worked at. It was not owned by Apple, which was a huge advantage for me in the fact that we didn't just fix Apple products. People brought in PCs all the time, and so yes, I wouldn't claim myself to be a Windows expert, and if I couldn't figure out at the counter or such, I knew that Caleb in the back would be able to easily do that. And so, but I was able to learn a decent amount. With that, to having my own PC later, given learning things as I go. And so, yes, I would prefer Mac, but
it's just more comfortable for you.
Yes, but it depends on the context. Certain things you're not able to do well on a Mac, like you're saying for gaming or such. But also sometimes just the programs that you need to use, they don't make a Mac compatible. Our mission organization is designed around PCs. It's there are a lot of missionaries in our organization that have Macs, but typically have to use Parallels or no longer really use Boot Camp because that Intel machines are getting really old for those. But with that, the programs that our mission uses only run on PCs or on Windows. So, excuse me. But yeah, having to understand both. And I say that also because, if you're not decided on one or the other, and with our mission organization, it is probably better to use Windows. But if you're already diehard Apple, you can, and there are ways to do it. And it is also harder because we can't get components out in Papua New Guinea very easily, really at all. So that's just a whole other thing. If you're not able to fix it really there, that's another issue you could have down the line. There are a lot of missionaries that still bring them, and I hope to help in that area. But back to like Missouri, helping out with the IT, that led into, if you do IT really well, why don't you see about switching to serving in IT in our mission organization? So that's a whole story. But we ended up kind of switching our mindset from being tribal church planters to being a support side. So it was a process, and I know I'd say it's probably harder for Martha than me, for multiple different reasons. But we ended up changing kind of our trajectory to be on the support side, because it takes multiple people behind each missionary to be able to stay on the field, and IT is no exception on that. So we use it all the time through our organization. It's needed, and so that's just an area that we end up switching to. So fast forward a little later, we were trying to figure out what country, our organizations all over the world, what country are we going to be serving in, and it was that was probably the harder part. It was the one area that just took time. Our first, they call it field fair, of different people coming from all the different fields to the training center. They ended up having, so they have all these different people from each field explain what the needs are, where they're at, the areas that they're hoping to open up to. These are the areas that they need people with. Like, there's a couple teams that are down a couple or so on. And so cool opportunity to see the need. But in terms of picking a place, that was the hard. Like, our first time doing it, we were like, we would be good to go to like any country besides Papua New Guinea. That's where we're going. So how God works. But
Yeah, that seems like it'd be really hard to make that sort of decision. What was your reserve for not going to Papua New Guinea?
so in that time, they were really focused on how their mission or their field worked with the local church. And so that was the focus that they asked the people to focus on. Like, we want to show, like, it is a huge area of our mission organization that we want to have. It's not just expats going overseas, creating churches and making them like expats kind of a deal. Our goal is to create a church, indigenous church, but also one that we hope to not only have thrive and self-sustaining, but also one that can connect with the national church. We don't want to have these orphans all around kind of a deal, for illustration on that. But with Papua New Guinea, there's from what we gathered is the national church. It's because it's so remote. It's really hard to partner with the national church. Like, here, we're having to fly into these places. So for them to partner with other national churches, they have to fly out of their location and, other things like that. So it creates a lot more issues that way in terms of, for us, we were like, this hesitation, but also, we also didn't understand all the context. And then, in terms of, they have a gated base over there, and we're like, it would be great to be a part of the community instead of, in a walled base and such. And that was also ignorance of, like, the community asked them, hey, can you put up a wall? Because we shame, honor culture. We don't want them to, our people to steal from you and such, and have that shame our community, and other things like that, slowly over time broke down of like any hesitation we had. It wasn't like we're not going, but that was.
Did your kids have any play in that decision too? Because you guys had how many at that point? Was it
So
3?
when we started training center, we had 2. Hadassah was born in our 3rd. It was Christmas break after during our 2nd year. So it's a 2-year school there, and so they a little bit, but not really. There are certain areas that, I wouldn't say that really any country specifically makes it like harder. If anything, that would be one of the countries that we were thinking about were Philippines. and we'd be, because I was in IT, I'd be based in Manila, and it would be a really tight quarters. And we're told like you'll never feel like you're alone because you're in the middle of like the third largest city in the world. So you could say that plays a part a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of
I like my space.
when you have 4 kids, things can be really cramped possibly in that scenario. That was one of the reasons for why we didn't. But we had Philippines, West Africa, Brazil, Papua New Guinea ended up being like the 4 on our minds. Um, we ended up emailing West Africa and Papua New Guinea different questions of like how it'd be like for our family with like Martha. Yes, she's a mom of 4 with 4 kids, and just how would that work in terms of her being able to do ministry. And Papua New Guinea, they were like, she can help in all these different areas, not required if things are crazy with kids or whatever. She doesn't have a quota that she needs to meet necessarily, but we have all these ways she can just even do 5 hours a week or something, and so that really helped that. And West Africa, it was a lot more of a challenge with that. So we're like, we fit a whole lot better in Papua New Guinea. So come to find out, that's where we ended up.
Guess we're doing it then.
So that's, and then during that time, then we ended up giving also the option of taking an extra course, or for me taking an extra course. So it's a 2-year program for the Missionary Training Center. They have 2 optional classes. You can do, you don't have to either of them, but they have the Ling. So especially for those that are going into just tribal church planters, but then for languages that are really difficult, or they want to be they're really good at languages and such, and they want to be the work on translating later, it's really helpful to go through extra language learning stuff. They do language learning in our main course, but you can dive a whole lot deeper, and so they have that option. And then the other option is off-grid tech. And so that is the area that I worked on, or I did. They wanted people that were into using their hands, construction, to maintenance, solar electric, and such. And yes, I didn't have a job experience necessarily in a lot of those areas, but I always did a lot of that regardless. I love working with my hands. It just, IT is the area that I got a job in. So that's how that works. So
sometimes experience is a lot better than, the knowledge of it. You could have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to actually do it, you feel like a monkey out there moving stuff around. You're like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I know how I should do it. I just don't know how to move my hands.
Yep. So they ended up, and here my dad's a general contractor. His dad was a carpenter. His dad was a carpenter. Like
Wow.
those stuff kind of runs down in the family. So I've always been a part of woodworking in some sort of way. And so from having my own business during, like since I was 12 to graduation, and
Wow.
doing woodworking and fine woodworking with a lathe, but it was really cool. So I was able to take that extra class. I would say that's the hardest class I've ever taken through any of, from my high school to the rest of the training center or so on. They put you through the ringer, in a good way. But it's from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. plus homework. And it's not just a little bit of homework, as we found out. It's like, here, read 300 pages and answer 60 questions. So when you have 3 kids, and yeah, it was long days, but
That's crazy.
We had a blast. There was 4 of us guys. We had Team P&G, and Team Brazil. There was 2 guys that were planning on going to Brazil, another guy planning to go to Papua New Guinea, and so there was a little bit of competition there, but not necessarily. We're all really good friends, and so
You had the cooler name, so
so it was a blast. Got to learn a lot, areas that they didn't expect you to be an expert in everything or understand in every aspect, but I've never welded before. That was an area that they worked on. Refrigeration and AC is an area that I didn't really do anything before. That was a huge area that we focused on. So other areas of just training so that I would able to utilize these skills to help missionaries overseas. So that led to we graduated that December of 2023. And so then we spent a year working on support raising in New Hampshire and moved out here February. And our goal is August of this year for Papua New Guinea. But it's been a process. We haven't been given the green light. There's definitely a lot of different things there, from visas to finances.
that is a mess almost, especially with the state of things, the way processing stuff goes nowadays. It seems like that would be
Well,
a lot of trouble.
the one thing for us, like here, we've had delays in the past with going to the training center and such. We wouldn't have had any other way, and learning to come at it in the same mindset. Because yes, our goal is August. We made that goal January of last year. That here we want to make a goal of August of this coming year. But it's God's timing. He's the one ultimately that is for providing for us, and he has reasons that we have no clue, and we'll find out later that we wouldn't have it any other way. Another thing too is like for visas, we've been in the waiting process for 2 months, so we hope and pray that it comes in soon. We have all of our stuff ready to go and send once we get that green light to send it over to the embassy. But God's ultimately in control, and
Still waiting.
we know people that it's gone through in less than a month. A month is around what they give us for estimation. Like, you don't have to worry about it. It'll take some time, but it's been on the longer side. But I mean, we never know exactly why God sometimes waits to the very last second, and we'll find out. But that's where we're at. And the other thing too is before we buy tickets, we have to have visas in hand. So that's definitely a prayer request.
Yeah.
For anyone listening. But then also
Be sure to pray.
yes. And so the other would be for finances. We're at 67%. We have 8% to when we hit that. Once we hit 75%, we're able to buy tickets and go. And this is a recommended budget from our organization on the ground for our family. And so, because here, it's just we would just have to guess. And so we have to go off of, what our family would, live off of and such. So once we hit 75%, they're fine with us going. And so, but of course, 100% would be what we hope to achieve. And so those are but we're not able to even buy tickets until we hit that 75 as well. So
is that something people can go do, like to give? Is that like a monthly thing they can like sign up for? And do you have something that we can actually put out for people?
Yeah.
To do that?
So, and actually, might be able to even throw something in description, but we have a website. It actually should be easy for you guys in terms of grace. It's We Are the Nelsons. I took it from the We Are Grace. So, but yeah, wearethenelsons.org. And from that, it shares from our ministry to links to Ethnos's website to give. And so you can go to Ethnos's website. Everything goes through them. And so, and then from there, and we've actually, one of the things to throw out there in terms of praises, we have completed all of our startup costs. So we were able to raise money for that, and praise God.
Awesome.
And thanks for all who gave for that. And so we're set there. So it's just the monthly reoccurring. But it's been cool to see how God's provided in ways that, sometimes there's, harder times. Like one time we got new numbers of prices went up or whatever. And so, hey, here are new numbers of what you have to raise. And so that brought us down. But the same weekend that brought us down, we had a new supporter and other people up there giving. And so we were back at 60, I think it was 66 or such % at the time. So it's cool to see how God's provided.
Yeah. So definitely check that out. We'll have some in the description. Do you know if it's on the church website? I know we have a missions. I know we're looked at it to see
on there, but I don't remember. That is definitely a question. So.
Yeah, what stuff is on there. So if we are, or if you are on there, definitely check that out. We'll have something in the video too, and Spotify for you guys, so people do that. I think definitely support missionaries. My problem with supporting missionaries, it's not really, I mean, it is a big problem, but am I supporting somebody who's going to share what I believe is biblical truth? What is the gospel? Because some, missionaries out there, there'll be, Lordship Salvation, Calvinists out there. And am I really wanting to support something that's not actually the gospel? What's the difference in me supporting that and me supporting an atheist? Honestly, so definitely you guys are definitely, Free Grace, you're definitely solid. I think that's definitely a good to support things like that. So for me, that's definitely a good thing for you guys, supporting you guys, just because I know the beliefs are the same thing. So putting, throwing money towards people who don't even believe the same thing. And it's like, why am I really doing this? Is this just to say I'm supporting missionaries? Or do I want to support missionaries who are sharing the truth, who are sharing, scripture, who are giving biblical principles and that type of thing? So that's kind of where I'm at with that, but definitely support them.
Yeah, we totally understand, because that's one of the things that we chose, the mission organization that we chose, because having the same mindset. Here we're going to be rubbing shoulders with a bunch of people, and with theological differences and so on, can cause all sorts of division. It's all over the place. Things have happened before and such, and to come to a point of, here we're wanting unity, but also making sure that we all have the same mindset. One of the things that we went through in training was team building, as in, who are you going to work with over there? For the tribal church planters, that here we don't have Lone Rangers. And so, building a team that here we're going to dedicate pretty much the rest of our life to work together to see a mature church come to this people. And so with that comes a lot, how do you guys parent? From the theological differences, making sure that you're on the same boat, because it would be definitely complicated while you're teaching God's word, that you have a different view on soteriology or so on, when you're trying to teach that people group. But also, there's a few other people that are like, oh, what we did is I think one of them actually went on a vacation together, tight knit, you can't get away from each other kind of deal, because that's what's going to be when you're on the field. So
that's true.
Those types of things, to be able to see, is this a good fit? And so, yeah, I get you there to make sure people are aligned with what you believe and such. And it's really cool to see how, like, different things that I definitely relate and what we've had to go through. But yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. Yeah, no, that'd be definitely would be hard, but yeah, we'll definitely put that in there for you guys, and definitely give if we're able to. But no, it's cool. Thanks for sharing your journey, missionary journey.
Yeah, well, thanks
As we
for
could
letting
say.
me.
I
Yeah.
don't know what you would call it, but so I guess the other thing is you are an outdoorsman, huh? You love being outside in nature, experiencing the air, the wind in your hair, whatever you might say. So how did that kind of like start for you?
There's a lot of different factors. I'll also throw it back to my mom, though. Actually, my mom and dad, they. So my mom, being a skied for many years, she also backpacked a lot growing up and so on. So from an early age, we went camping to. We went mainly camped in Acadia National Park. If anyone's been there, it's great. But it's in Maine. They so we camped there like almost every single year since I was like 4 or 5. And then not only is it just regular camping, but also we would hike. We would do a lot of biking. My parents were both into mountain biking and such, and so we had rail trails right next to our house that we would bike on. To like from an early age, we had a trailer or a tag along or so on that they would take us along. I know my sister's been squished by our dog because our dog got tired, and so it was my sister and our dog Gabe in the trailer. And so yeah, that was. But
Pack them in there as much as you can. Huh?
yeah, so we always did a bunch of biking, and so and then hiking in New Hampshire. Yeah, we don't have the mountains that we have here. We do have, you could say, 2 mountains with their different claims to fame. Mount Monadnock, which a lot of people in Colorado will definitely laugh at because I think it's 3,200 feet above sea level. But you start at sea level, so there is definitely elevation compared to from where you started. But then the other one is Mount Washington, and I've been able to do that 3 times. Once I think I was like 8 or so as a church group, and then the other 2 times with my brother and my youngest brother Jed. We've tried to get my other brother Isaiah into it, but it was always just during a bad time. But us boys we've done a lot of different things together outdoors. If that's from biking, hiking, and then actually going back to the claims of fame part, yeah, Mount Monadnock is the most climbed mountain in the world. So that's
Wow.
kind of interesting to think it's I wouldn't call it crowded or whatever, but that's I guess the case. It used to be Mount Fuji until they made a road up it, and then
Now it's the most
now it's
driven
less.
mountain.
Probably. And then the other Mount Washington had the highest wind speeds until they got better readings from Mount Everest. So if I remember correctly, feel free to fact check me on this, but I can't remember exactly, but I think it's like 250 plus miles an hour wind. So that was it was windy when we were going up there, but definitely not that. So we've done a bunch of hiking together, but the more recent one that my brothers got into 2 years ago is rock climbing. We've been interested in climbing just in general. If anyone,
Well, that's like a given when you go backpacking or into the mountains. You kind of you want to go climb some rocks,
climb rocks, very similar in hiking in a lot of ways, depending on what trails you decide to go on. We typically we would like to go on the steepest trails regardless.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that was
You got to go off trail and find that boulder. That nice big boulder up there. You can get a nice view over the top of the mount.
or finding the different caves that we found, in the
That's
area.
fun.
So with
Bring
that,
your bear spray with you.
and if you do go to Acadia, Blackwoods is a campground area, but right by it is their coastline, and it's just jagged rocks that you can climb up and so on. So
Nice.
it's been it. So we've done. So they started getting into rock climbing. Actually, during for a bachelor party for my best friend John Layton, ended up taking my brothers and I out to rock climb at Garden of the Gods. And so I was able to
That's cool.
start that a little bit. Then my brothers got into rock climbing at a gym. And now, I mean, my brother Jed is the one who's the rock climber of the family. And that's what he does every single day if he gets the chance.
He's pretty good too. You showed me
yes.
a video of him
He-
climbing, and
he's trying to if people know the rock climb world and such, right? He's been trying to do a V12 outdoor V12 for a while. It's so VB
talk to me like I'm a
V0
child.
is like the very beginner, like you get, they call it jugs, just really easy holds, just beginner climbs to
Okay,
get
so that's
to
like
more-
the grips, and then like the distance between them, maybe, or
yeah. And sometimes just if you get something that has very little, like most people would just think of it just like a tiny ledge
the
or whatever.
edge. Okay,
Yeah. If
it's
that's
more
all
of a
you
hold.
get, then of course the harder it is to. Sometimes you have, they call it dinos, as in jumping from, you jump from one hold to grab another, or other things to make it more complicated. Now, when it comes to, like, for me, I typically max out at V6, V7 in terms of what I'm able to do. And it just gets progressively harder. So you get into the very expert as you go down.
And he's trying to go for a V12.
V12. He was able to get, actually, I don't know if he's gotten a V11, but I know he's gotten V10s. And they're extremely hard. But
I can imagine.
He's 18 and is single, so therefore he's able to.
Yeah, he's full of time and full of life.
It's been great.
Nothing's creaking or cracking yet, so he's good.
Well, the hard part is, like, last time we climbed Mount Washington, he had just done a bunch of different hikes and backpacking through different areas. So it was, like, I think the previous, like, 2 weeks he hiked for, I want to say 100 miles or something. He's just crazy. They did a whole other thing, and he'll correct me later. But he was already primed and ready to go, and I was the one slowing up the pack, and so that was
That's very hard to believe.
Knowing him, yes, it's actually, he can easily pass me up many times, but
I don't know him that well, so yeah, that's why I'm saying that. If
You'll-
I did, I'd be
you'll
like,
meet him
yeah,
later
Eli is
next
slow. Oh, sweet.
but yeah,
Can we not bring Eli with us, man? Because he's kind of weighing us down.
so yeah, he's
That's
actually
crazy, though. I mean,
coming
is
out.
he taller than you are?
Yes, I'm trying to think. I don't think I'm the shortest in the family, but I am definitely one of the shortest.
Doesn't that just stink, man? You're just the
Um,
only thing you have on them is age, and then once you get too old, that doesn't even matter anymore.
yeah, especially being the oldest, but I still am able to either match or beat them in pull-ups or other things like that.
Oh,
so
yeah. I'm sure he's heavier than you are too, isn't he? With
both my brothers are. No, my other brother Isaiah, he's the one that is a lot more into the weightlifting and so on, and he's so between brothers, we always have a competition between ourselves, and so we were doing pull-up competitions, and so but we also want to make sure that we're not just one-upping, because there's always that drive of, oh, I can do that and I can do one more, just saying
Yeah.
I can do it. But that's, if you can do two more or so on, that's where you get it. So yeah, we've had those competitions and such, and
that's a lot of fun.
yeah.
That's that brother camaraderie that you get. That's super special.
So it'll be fun because I get to some of my family's driving out, and the others are able to fly out just for a short little bit, but we'll have some time. visit before we hopefully head out. So we'll see how all that goes. But yeah, I would say that different people will say I'm a daredevil. I've had my own fair share of accidents, as I think actually a few people here even know in terms of I've had a bike accident here, 2 years ago, and had my fair
and
share of concussions.
that wasn't like a BMX bike either. That was your motorized bike, right?
Yeah, the one I built. Yeah.
Yeah, your built bike. So you were going pretty fast on it. It wasn't like a tricycle ride down the street that you tipped over and got a boo-boo on.
No,
That was with your concussion, right?
No, actually, I was very fortunate. I've never had a concussion riding a bike. I should have gotten a concussion a couple times. So there's that.
I remember the one where you were coming to the food bank, right?
That
To
was the
help
one,
out.
yeah.
That was the one where you almost got a concussion.
Yeah, I blacked out. So that's the other thing of like, it was bad enough. I had a motorcycle helmet. I do know better to, like, I had a regular bike helmet at one point, but I was just testing out that bike and I wasn't going that fast and I cracked that helmet. And I'm like, okay, if this can go way faster, I need to have, if it can go close to motorcycle speeds, I need to have a motorcycle helmet. And so I've learned a lesson on that. Fortunately, no concussions while bikes. I have been hit by a car while I was on a bike, but that was when I was 6 because I wasn't listening to my mom. So 6-year-olds listen to your mom.
own fault. Yeah, there you
go. But I've had my own fair accidents, but
have you ever broken a bone?
No, surprisingly not.
Nice.
I've had 2 or 3 family members, or in terms of siblings, that have broken bones. I've just had 3 concussions, 30-ish plus stitches, including when I was in Ecuador. That was an interesting experience, being in a foreign ER room. But when you get the questions of like, do you want painkillers or do you not? And here it's the like no questions, as in this is what you get.
We're weak.
Yeah.
We can't handle pain, so that's why they ask.
It's
people out there get run over by cattle and stuff all the time, so they're used to it.
Well, it's an extra $12, so do you want to save that a little extra? So it was interesting. Here I didn't know I needed stitches, and so I said, "No, I'm good." But as soon as they started scrubbing the wound, then I'm like, "Yeah, I
probably should, yeah."
But they did give me. I did ask for it right after that when they said, you will need stitches. Okay, I'll take painkillers, please.
Get that needle out and start. All right, let's stitch you up here. No. I'll take those painkillers, please. I'll pay the $12. I don't care.
To me, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't a money thing. I was like, oh,
it's not really that bad.
If they're giving me the option,
it's probably not that bad, right?
Yeah.
They're amputating your leg as you say that.
I've been to the ER a decent amount of the time. But yeah, have not had an ambulance ride. I've been in an ambulance because Elisha's had 2 ambulance rides. But yeah, kids are definitely a way that out of your control, and you just have to trust God.
You get so much life experience points from your kids, though. Like you get to do things you never would have thought you'd, like get a ride in an ambulance, get to talk to people you never would have even looked at on the street.
Elisha's great at that.
Yeah.
We're working on it. We love that he's super friendly. There's also the point of like, we're in the middle of a zoo and he just ups and walks over to another group and starts talking to random people. And we're like, okay.
That's friendly, but that's where, stranger danger. You got to watch out for that too. They'd probably return him though,
You sure hope, but
tired of him talking like, I'm taking you back, bro. You're too much right now.
But yeah, it's so cool. Just also the openness of kids, like, going up to random strangers, sharing the gospel. Like,
that's how you know you're doing something right too. Your kids go up and start sharing the gospel instead of, asking them for candy or something.
Yeah, we don't have to worry about a lollipop, man. We just have to.
He's
So,
worried about their eternal salvation. So where their soul's going.
it's been cool. Like, asking our kids, so why are we going to Papua New Guinea and so on? And they're like, oh, we were there to tell people about Jesus. And
That's cool.
they're excited for it. So,
And you have one boy, 3 girls right now, which is in the family, because you were 2 and 2, right?
no, so there's three boys, 2 girls. So, it was, and Martha doesn't like, having patterns, as in to make sure that, we don't match either one of the side of the family, because she's like, we got to break patterns as much as we can. That's it's funny.
To each her own, I guess.
Oh, it was fun, but they ended, and for my family, I'm the only one married with kids. Now I do have one sibling that just graduated high school, and the other that's still in high school. So I'm the oldest, and
That's
they'll
probably
have
a
some
good thing that you're the only one married with kids right now.
I have a brother that's engaged, so that'll be exciting down the road.
Good.
But and as you know, Evangelista side, there are grandkids, but fortunately, Elisha's now not the only boy in the family. In terms of grandsons. So, but that was
and actually we just found out. What was it? Thursday, Wednesday. Ours is going to be a boy too.
Congrats.
So little Jeremy Rocket Rhodes.
There we go.
The middle name picked out. So get some testosterone back in these families. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. So that will be sweet to have now multiple boys.
Yes.
In the family.
We'll get some boys for little Eli to play with.
Yeah. So though he won't answer you to that name, I will say, because he's like, Eli, that's my dad. That's not me.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think I've ever called him that before, but
it's happened with a bunch of people in the past, and so Elisha's like,
I'll call him Sha.
If he finally realized, oh, you're talking to me, he's like, no, it's funny.
Well, good on him. He's got his identity is he's got his name figured out. He knows who he is. That's good.
And he just graduated, finished with his kindergarten yesterday.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
So yeah, he's been doing great. So it's been fun.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's been awesome talking to you, getting to know you. Here's some things I'm sure some people haven't heard before.
Yeah, it was fun. Cool.
Cool. Well, we'll have that stuff up in the description and for giving and everything. So thank you all so much for watching. Tune in next week for the next episode. But we'll see y'all later.